Hello and welcome to the final video in this Creative iMedia playlist. This time we're going to talk briefly about how we can evaluate pre-production documents. It's quite a major part of the exam actually, which makes it quite hard to teach because it's really about the actual scenario they give you, and you get better at this just by practicing and knowing what you need to do. So we can't go into this in loads of detail, but we can talk about what is meant by evaluation. So evaluation means considering both the advantages and disadvantages. Really important we consider both. We can't just talk about what's good or what's bad, we've got to consider both. So an example question of this, usually the last question in the exam paper, often 12 marks, can be a couple marks fewer sometimes, but a long mark question, this is at least a sixth of your exam paper, is where they give you an example of a pre-production document presented with some context, and they're asking you to identify any strengths, so advantages, weaknesses, so disadvantages, and also suggest some areas for improvement. And notice how also your quality of written communication will be assessed, so make sure the spellings and grammar are good and you're using key language like we looked at in previous videos. So it's important when we are evaluating to try and consider both sides equally, so don't only talk about disadvantages and maybe include one advantage. Try and have as many points that are good as are bad, so you're being unbiased and you're being nice and considered, but also don't come to a conclusion. I think sometimes people believe they need to give a definite answer. They, in their last line they'll say, well, I think this mind map was good or this was bad. Don't come to a conclusion with just being asked to identify both sides of the argument. And as the exam question will actually state, you need to, for the disadvantages, to suggest some improvements and also make sure these improvements are linked to the context. So there'll be context around this mind map or the other document they are asking you about. Make sure it is linked to the scenario, don't just talk in general terms. And it is important to not just state the disadvantage, you've also got to say how it could be improved, otherwise it doesn't look like you've really understood why it is a disadvantage. So in your answer you can include different discussion points. Really it is down to the question, and you're lucky that you've got loads and loads of past papers you can practice on, loads of questions to try, and you can use the actual theory of learn in previous videos on each pre-production to discuss about the format. Is it meeting a standard format for that type of document? Is the style appropriate? Is it professional? Is it clear? That's what clarity means. How clear is it? Is it confusing to look at? Also, is it meeting the client requirements? Is the scenario totally different to what this document is suggesting? If it is, that's obviously not a good thing. Is it meeting the target audience? Or is it inappropriate for the target audience which the client is intending it to be shown to? Is the colour scheme on that theme also appropriate? And finally, is the content appropriate? Is it missing a key aspect of most mind maps? Is it missing, say, technical details for a script? Is it missing any content, or is it including all the content you need? So like I say, for these questions it's difficult to go into specifics because it really depends on the scenario and also the exact document they're showing you, but it's important you are using the knowledge you've learned in previous videos on those documents and you are applying it in a nice balanced way. So do an advantage, then a disadvantage, then an improvement, and do that a few times to make sure you have enough points to get your 10, 11, 12 marks, whatever the question is.